It's so hot at Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump asked Melania to be even colder to him.
Recently, former U.S. President Donald Trump has faced growing alienation, even among his loyal supporters. The impressive and repeated public humiliation he has been subjected to indicates a major shift in the political landscape and public opinion. Since leaving office, Trump has continued to be an influential figure in the Republican Party. However, his controversial statements, lawsuits, and allegations of various offenses are slowly eroding his reputation. Many of his former supporters are beginning to reconsider their attitude towards him. This is especially noticeable against the backdrop of statements by some of Trump's former allies, who are now publicly criticizing his actions and decisions. A telling example is the speech of former Vice President Mike Pence, who at a recent conference expressed disappointment in the former boss and condemned his attempts to challenge the results of the 2020 election. Criticism has also come from a number of Republican senators who previously sided with Trump but are now distancing themselves from him in an attempt to preserve their own political careers and reputations. Public opinion is also shifting. Recent polls show that more Americans, including among Republicans, are beginning to recognize Trump's flaws and inconsistencies. On social networks, his former fans now often express disappointment and criticize his actions. These processes certainly cannot but affect Trump's political future. He will undoubtedly remain an important figure in American politics, but his influence and support from Republicans is now nowhere near as strong as it used to be. The public humiliation and retreat of his supporters is a clear signal that the era of unconditional support for Trump may be gradually coming to an end.
He's too old. He's out of touch, losing his marbles at an alarming rate.
They have sinks where no water comes out. You turn it on, no water comes out. You want to wash your hands, right?
Yeah.
And you've seen this, and you turn on the sink and it's very little.
Donald Trump, former U.S. president, continues to attract attention with his speeches, but his age and frequent outlandish statements raise more and more questions. Trump is currently 77 years old, an age that inevitably takes its toll on his physical and mental state. His supporters, as well as his opponents, are beginning to notice signs of fatigue and confusion in his speech, which increasingly calls into question his ability to effectively conduct political activity. Often at his speeches, Trump makes mistakes, expresses illogical and contradictory thoughts, which leads to mixed reactions from the public. His statements often become a reason for criticism and ridicule, both from the media and the public. Examples of such statements are widely discussed on social media and news programs, which focus on his age. These appearances are causing concern even among his supporters, who are beginning to wonder whether Trump is capable of continuing the political fight with the same energy and clarity of mind. It is important to note that age alone is not a barrier to a political career, but the combination of age-related changes and not always well-founded statements undermines confidence in his leadership abilities. In an environment of fierce political competition and demands for high competence, such shortcomings become a significant obstacle. Against this backdrop, many Republicans are thinking about finding new leaders who can offer more balanced and appropriate policies.
What will you tell your kids? That you voted for a felon and a criminal, supported a man found guilty by a citizen jury, went into the voting booth happy to pull the lever for the only former president in history to bear the mark of criminal shame.
Recently, there has been a clear decline in confidence in Donald Trump, which has become increasingly evident both among his former supporters and in broader public circles. The former president, who once enjoyed the unwavering support of a significant portion of Americans, now faces growing skepticism and distrust. The main reasons for this change in sentiment are the numerous allegations of crimes and his controversial behavior. In recent years, Trump has been embroiled in a number of lawsuits involving offenses ranging from financial fraud to attempts to pressure the election results. These scandals have severely damaged his reputation and caused many to question his moral and legal fitness to continue leading the country. The allegations against him are seen as serious and potentially far-reaching. In addition to the legal issues, his behavior in the public arena also raises questions. Trump often makes offensive and inappropriate remarks, which only makes his behavior worse. His speeches, filled with unproven claims and conspiracy theories, alienate even those who previously supported his policies. All this leads people to stop believing in his words and doubt his ability to effectively govern the country. Against the background of all these factors, many Americans are coming to the conclusion that Trump cannot be president. His political future looks less and less likely as more and more voters realize that his leadership is fraught with risks and instability. There are also changes within the Republican Party, with a number of influential figures openly expressing doubts about supporting Trump in future elections. Thus, Trump, who once seemed an invincible and unchallenged leader, now faces a clear decline in trust and support. His legal troubles and controversial behavior are jeopardizing his political career, and a growing number of people believe he has no place in the White House.
Will you tell them that breaking the law is how they should live their lives? That lying to their families about porn stars and hush money is how they should behave?
Donald Trump, the former president of the United States, has recently found himself at the center of another high-profile scandal that has severely damaged his reputation and caused a rift in his family. The allegations against Trump concern payments to porn star Stormy Daniels for keeping quiet about their alleged affair. This case not only casts a shadow over his personal life, but also has serious legal implications. According to the charges, Trump allegedly arranged to pay a substantial amount of money to Stormy Daniels through his attorney Michael Cohen to hide the details of their alleged affair on the eve of the 2016 presidential election. These actions could qualify as election law violations and fraud, seriously complicating his legal position. Michael Cohen has already pleaded guilty and testified against Trump, which has only increased the pressure on the former president. Amid this scandal, serious friction has arisen within the Trump family. Sources close to the family say that Melania Trump and some of his children are deeply disappointed and embarrassed by Donald's actions. Melania, who has always strived to maintain the image of a flawless first lady, is now forced to deal with public embarrassment and humiliation. Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, who actively supported Trump's political career and were his closest advisors, are also distancing themselves from him. They are appearing less and less frequently at public events with Trump and are trying to avoid commenting on the scandal. This suggests that even within the family circle, Trump is losing support and trust. Thus, the allegations against Donald Trump in the Stormy Daniels case not only deal a serious blow to his political career, but also lead to a breakdown in his personal life. The hush money scandal is undermining his reputation as a leader and as a family man, raising doubts about his integrity and moral principles. With even his closest family members beginning to turn their backs on him, Trump's future looks increasingly uncertain and bleak.
Do you want your son to treat women like a man who was found to have committed sexual assault? Do you want your daughter to be a victim of a man like him?
You're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it? And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the...
Donald Trump, former president of the United States, remains one of the most controversial figures in modern politics. His behavior and actions often show that he considers himself above the law and does not pay attention to public condemnation. Trump has repeatedly demonstrated that he does not care about the interests of the country and its citizens, putting his ambitions and selfishness at the forefront. Trump has been repeatedly caught up in scandals involving law-breaking. His disregard for legal norms is evident in everything from his refusal to disclose his tax returns to numerous accusations of financial fraud and fraud. Moreover, he has publicly claimed to have extraordinary powers that allow him to circumvent the law, undermining confidence in the country's legal system. Public condemnation is also having no effect on Trump. He continues to engage in defiant and provocative behavior, ignoring criticism and majority opinion. His scandalous remarks, racist comments, and attacks on opponents have become an integral part of his public image. Despite numerous protests and citizen outrage, Trump remains adamant in his confidence and smugness. Sadly, Trump seems to care little for the welfare of the country and its people. His policies and decisions are often aimed at satisfying personal interests and ambitions, rather than improving the lives of citizens. Examples of this include his actions to undermine democratic institutions, attempting to pressure the electoral system, and ignoring critical issues such as climate change and social inequality. Its behavior on the world stage also raises doubts about its commitment to the national interest. By jeopardizing international alliances and agreements, Trump has often acted impulsively and selfishly, ignoring the long-term consequences for the country. This undermines the global standing of the U.S. and raises doubts among allies and partners. In sum, Donald Trump is a prime example of a leader who considers himself above the law and is not afraid of public censure. He seems indifferent to the interests of the country and the well-being of its citizens, which is deeply disappointing and alarming to many Americans.
The Libertarian Party should nominate Trump for President of the United States. Whoa. That's nice. Only if you want to win.
The hall is buzzing. People are not happy. Who do you think it's about? That's right, it's the great winner, Donald Trump, the man who thinks he's a god and came to beg people at the Libertation Nation convention to vote for him. Are you completely stupid? Libertarians who believe in limited government and individual freedom blame Trump, a Republican, for rushing through the creation of a COVID-19 vaccine when he was president, and for not doing more to stop public health restrictions on the unvaccinated during the pandemic. When Trump took to the stage in Washington, there were loud boos and jeers. A smaller section of the crowd, Trump supporters, cheered him. Shortly before he appeared, one Libertarian Party member shouted, "Donald Trump should have taken a bullet." Trump's campaign did not immediately respond to a request for comment about the hostile reception. Libertarians garnered only 1.2% of the national vote in 2020, or about 1.8 million votes. But November's election could be decided by just tens of thousands of votes in a handful of battleground states. So Trump is seeking to peel away some libertarian support. Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who also spoke to the convention on Friday, was hoping to rally support. Libertarian Party Chair Angela McArdle ruled Sunday that Trump was not qualified to be the party's nominee for president because he did not submit nominating papers. The reason I didn't file paperwork for the Libertarian nomination, which I would have absolutely gotten if I wanted it, as everyone could tell by the enthusiasm of the crowd last night, was the fact that, as the Republican nominee, I am not allowed to have the nomination of another party, Trump said on Truth Social.
And the one person quoted by Politico, who is the director at large of the Libertarian National Committee, said any libertarian worth their stripes who has looked at Donald Trump's record will see that he barely aligns with the conservative camp and is a far cry from the Libertarian Party.
Trump has reached where he clearly doesn't belong. His stupid post doesn't justify the Libertarians' unwillingness to nominate him from their party. They see what you've done and know Trump is the worst candidate. Trump, who was president between 2017 and 2021, immediately highlighted in his speech Saturday his total 88 felony charges he faces in 4 federal and state prosecutions. "If I wasn't a libertarian, I am now," he said on Saturday. He denounced the administration of President Joe Biden, his challenger in the November 5th election rematch, and Biden's fellow Democrats as being part of a rise in left-wing fascism. Trump was trying to appeal to libertarians who have more in common with Republican policy positions than Democrats on issues including taxes and the size of government in what is expected to be a closely fought election. He added, "We should not be fighting each other." He asked libertarians to work with him to defeat Biden, an appeal which was greeted by many boos, although the vast majority in the crowd were fiercely opposed to Biden and his administration. Trump's appearance at the Libertarian gathering, unusual for a Republican White House candidate, also signaled how seriously he and his campaign take the threat of third-party candidate Kennedy, who has long opposed vaccines and mandates. Kennedy was quickly eliminated from the party's presidential nomination on Sunday. Trump has been ramping up attacks on Kennedy, who is running as an independent, recently calling him a fake anti-vaccination proponent. Kennedy addressed the party on social media on Sunday, writing, "While we may not agree on every downstream issue, our core values of peace, free speech, and civil liberties make us natural allies."
And if you vote for me on day one, I will commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht to a sentence of time served.
This man knows how to push a crowd, but it won't help him. The court cases will be over soon, and we will all know that Trump will be behind bars. A jury in a New York court has unanimously found former U.S. President Donald Trump guilty of falsifying business records to conceal the amount paid to former adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Mr. Trump, who is determined to lead America once again after the November 5th, 2024 election, thus became the first ex-White House chief executive in history to be found guilty of a criminal offense. Judge Juan Merchan set sentencing for the 11th of July. The high-profile event will take place just days before the Republican Party convention in Milwaukee, at which Donald Trump is to be officially announced as a candidate for the U.S. presidency. The trial in New York of Donald Trump, who was accused of falsifying business records while paying $130,000 to porn actress Stormy Daniels before the 2016 presidential election, ended with a unanimous guilty plea from the former White House chief executive on all 34 counts. This was the decision of the jury. Mr. Trump became the first former U.S. president in history to be found guilty of a criminal offense. The trial of the Republican lasted a month and a half. Prosecutors accused Donald Trump that shortly before the 2016 election, the politician instructed his lawyer, Michael Cohen, to pay $130,000 to Stormy Daniels not to disclose information about an intimate relationship with the Republican in 2006. The Republican himself said that the real verdict will come on the 5th of November when the people decide. And he's largely right here. The fact is that even a prison term will not prevent the politician not only to run for president, but also to lead the United States. As a candidate for federal office, Donald Trump needs to meet the requirements spelled out in the Constitution, which states, the president must be at least 35 years old. He must be a U.S. citizen by birth and reside in the territory of the states for at least 14 years. However, as experts point out, a candidate, and even more so, a president sentenced to a real term, would be a serious challenge to the American political system and could provoke a constitutional crisis in the country. Mr. Trump is unlikely to be able to govern the U.S. from a prison cell if he defeats Democrat Joe Biden. Therefore, lawyers believe it is likely that the execution of the sentence will need to be postponed so that Donald Trump can serve another 4-year term in the White House without damage to the state. However, no one can say how this will be realized, as American history has not yet known such precedents. The fact is that in Florida, where the Republican officially resides, it is forbidden to vote in elections for people convicted of criminal offenses. State law allows a person to regain the right to vote only after serving their sentence. In addition, if Mr. Trump is punished with a fine, he will also be unable to vote until he pays the amount ordered by a New York judge.
Hey, so Donald Trump is a felon. Donald Trump is a criminal. Donald Trump may not vote for himself. Donald Trump may not own a gun. Donald Trump has transformed himself by his own actions into a person who the normal Trump voter would loathe and despise.
Trump is guilty. That's the verdict of the jury. He thought he could be above the law and rule this country. It's not like in your sweet dreams, little Donald. It's time. The Democrats will win this election, and Trump belongs behind bars. What do you think about that? Write your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to watch other shocking news on the channel.
I really found his speech to be one of my favorite speeches. He came in, talked to the conference, was very honest. He was funny. He was joking around constantly with everyone.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, a member of the extreme right wing of the Republican Party, has long been associated with former President Donald Trump. Her loyalty to Trump is so great that many have referred to her as the nefarious sleazeball of a felon facing multiple indictments. The term sounds harsh, but reflects a sense of frustration that is increasingly evident among some supporters of the MAGA, Make America Great Again movement. Green has always championed Trump, even when his behavior and decisions have drawn criticism. Her rhetoric is full of conspiracy theories and extremist views, which helps her remain popular among Trump's most radical supporters. Over time, however, even among those who support MAGA, there is a growing fatigue with this style of politics. They begin to see Green as just a figure blindly following Trump, with no policy program or vision of her own. In addition, the numerous scandals involving Trump and his inner circle are causing some MAGA supporters to question the moral and ethical aspects of their support. Green's commitment to Trump, despite his legal troubles, looks increasingly problematic for those who had hoped for change and improvement in the country. Thus, Green is gradually losing support even among her potential allies. Her insistence on following Trump is perceived as political weakness and lack of her own opinions. As a result, her popularity is declining, and many MAGA supporters are beginning to look for more independent and strong leaders capable of offering real solutions for the country's future.
He was really sweet to me. He said to Speaker Johnson, he goes, "Okay, you got one more seat. You need to be tougher." He saw me. I was sitting back a little ways. He saw me in there, and he was like, "Hello, Marjorie." He's always so sweet. And
Marjorie Taylor Greene has long been known as one of the most controversial figures in contemporary American politics. Her unyielding devotion to Donald Trump has disgusted many observers. It's hard not to feel deeply frustrated watching her relentlessly praise a man whose actions and decisions have not only divided the nation, but damaged the country's democratic institutions. Trump, who has been repeatedly accused of various crimes, including attempts to undermine the 2020 election, remains a highly controversial figure. His attempt to return to the White House after a scandal-plagued first term has many worried about the country's future. However, Greene continues to be his loyal ally, ignoring all accusations and criticisms of him. For her, he remains the undisputed leader she is ready to defend at all costs. Greene's behavior is particularly disgusting as she enthusiastically repeats Trump's false claims and spreads conspiracy theories. She actively supports the idea that the 2020 election was stolen, despite ample evidence to the contrary. Her rhetoric only serves to further divide the public and foster distrust in the electoral system. At a time when the country is facing many serious challenges such as a pandemic, economic hardship, and social injustice, Greene chooses to spend her time defending Trump and promoting his false narrative. Instead of working on real solutions to problems, she engages in political provocation and plays on the emotions of her supporters. Her actions undermine faith in the integrity and accountability of politicians. Marjorie Taylor Greene is an example of how personal ambition and blind loyalty can trump public interest and common sense. As a result, her political career turns into an ongoing spectacle, where the main role is given to praising a person whose actions have already led to significant upheavals in the country. Every day, more and more Americans realize that the country needs leaders who can unite rather than divide, seek compromise, and offer real solutions. Greene, on the other hand, continues to sow discord and division by supporting a criminal who many believe has already destroyed the country. Her admiration for Trump and her desire to help him return to power a second time only exacerbates the situation, making her one of the most repugnant politicians of our time.
Recognizes me, and he said, "Are you being nice?" He was joking. "Are you being nice to Speaker Johnson?" And I said, "Eh." And he said, "Okay, be nice to him." And I nodded my head. And then
Donald Trump has long been known for his ability to manipulate people by using them to his advantage. One of the clearest examples of his strategy is Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, through her blind devotion and admiration for Trump, shows how easily he is able to subjugate even his most ardent supporters. From the very beginning of her political career, Marjorie Taylor Greene has positioned herself as an unyielding defender of Trump. Her unwavering admiration for the former president has become her trademark. However, many observers see this not as a display of strength and independence, but rather as a sign of naivety and lack of opinion. For Trump, people like Greene are convenient tools that can be used to achieve his goals. Greene actively promotes conspiracy theories and false claims that favor Trump. Her rhetoric, based on unproven facts and manipulation, only serves to further divide the public. She is willing to support whatever Trump claims while ignoring reality and common sense. In this respect, her behavior resembles the actions of fanatical followers who are ready to follow their leader without thinking about the consequences. For Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene is the perfect example of a politician who can be used to his advantage. She serves as the mouthpiece of his ideas and the protector of his reputation. Her loyalty allows Trump to advance his goals without having to get personally involved in political battles. While Greene spends her political clout defending Trump, he himself continues to build his career by using her support to bolster his position. However, utilizing loyal supporters like Greene also demonstrates Trump's cynicism. He is not interested in their personal ambitions or political success. To him, they are merely pawns in a larger game aimed at returning to power. Their success or failure means little to Trump unless it furthers his personal goals. Marjorie Taylor Greene thus serves as a prime example of how Trump uses people for his own ends. Her loyalty and admiration becomes a tool in the hands of a man who always puts his own interests above those of others. This highlights not only the manipulative nature of Trump, but also the vulnerability of those who, like Greene, allow themselves to be used in political games.
There's a classic cartoon that shows other convicted felons. There's Gandhi, there's Nelson Mandela, and then there's Trump.
Do you put Trump in line with Gandhi and Nelson Mandela?
Yeah.
Between Gandhi, Mandela, and Trump, which was the one who had sex with a porn star and then paid to cover that up?
Well, none of the above.
But one of the above.
Donald Trump's supporters often find themselves in a difficult position, themselves not fully realizing who they are following. Their support is based on loud statements and promises, which Trump skillfully uses to gain trust and sympathy. However, behind the colorful slogans and emotional speeches lies a personality whose actions and decisions are harmful to democratic institutions and society as a whole. Many of Trump's supporters sincerely believe in his promises to make America great again. They see him as a leader who can bring change and tackle problems that they believe are ignored by other politicians. However, they often fail to see or don't want to see that behind his words is a man repeatedly accused of fraud, corruption, and other crimes. Trump skillfully manipulates the emotions of his supporters, creating an image of a strong and unwavering leader. His rhetoric is aimed at inciting fear and hatred, which allows him to keep his supporters in a state of constant tension and readiness to fight imaginary enemies. This creates the illusion that Trump is the sole protector of their interests, when in fact he is using their support to achieve his personal goals. Many Trump supporters do not realize that their leader is more concerned with his own gain than the good of the people. His numerous business scams and legal troubles show that Trump is willing to do anything for his own gain without thinking about the consequences for others. At the same time, his supporters continue to believe in his honesty and honorableness, remaining hostage to his deception and manipulation. Figures like Marjorie Taylor Greene reinforce this illusion by serving as Trump's mouthpieces and promoting his ideas without critical reflection. They help maintain the myth that Trump is a true patriot and defender of the American people, when in fact he is using their loyalty to bolster his power and influence. As a result, Trump's supporters find themselves in a position where their trust and hopes are being exploited for selfish purposes. They follow a leader who has repeatedly betrayed their trust for his own gain. Their support is based on deception and manipulation, which Trump masterfully uses to maintain his influence and power. Thus, many Trump supporters remain deceived by his loud statements and false promises. Their faith in his leadership and integrity is maintained artificially, hiding the true motives and actions of a man who uses their support to achieve his personal goals. What do you think about that? Write your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to watch other shocking news on the channel.